In Algebra 1, Unit 1B, we are going to talk about how to solve inequalities. But before we actually start doing that, we want to review a few things that you learned in previous years about graphing inequalities on number lines and also how to write an inequality from a graph. So we're going to go ahead and get started with that. First things first, a lot of times when students are taught how to deal with the inequalities, they're taught just the alligator eats the bigger number. Well, now that we're in Algebra 1, we actually need to know the difference between these and what they mean. So we're going to talk about the names here. And you also need to know that an inequality is a statement that two quantities are not equal. And there are four signs that you're used to using. Less than, greater than, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to. But then there's also this one on the right here that is not equal to. We're actually not going to solve anything using those, but that is an inequality. Okay? So a couple things to remember here. If you're always struggling to decide which one's which, and I tell you that something is less than, you need to remember that the less than sign points to the left, and if you turn it just slightly, it looks like an L. Okay, it's kind of folded over, but it looks like an L. So the less than points to the left, greater than points to the right, and then you also have less than or equal to, so less than pointing to the left with an equal to bar underneath it, and then greater than or equal to, so greater than points to the right, with an equal to bar underneath it. A solution of an inequality is any value of the variable that makes the inequality true. So if I tell you something is less than 5, you can pick any number that's less than 5 and that would work. Okay, to graph inequalities on a number line, we need to do a couple things. First, we need to decide if the point should be opened or closed. Okay, so an open point, open dot or open point is just like a circle. It's not filled in. A closed dot is filled in. So what that does for me is it shows me if I should include the number, so if it's actually equal to the number, or if it's not equal to. Okay, so less than and greater than signs will have an open dot. Okay, so we're going to start at that number, but we're not going to include that number. It's not equal to. Less than or equal to or greater than or equal to signs will have a closed dot. So we're going to fill it in to show that we include that number. Okay, and now shading on the correct side of the point is really easy, and I want you to make sure that the variable is first for each of these, so when you read it, you say x is less than or x is greater than. Makes it a lot easier to shade, and I'm going to show you why once we do our problems in a second. Okay, so a greater than symbol, or greater than or equal to symbol, will mean that you need to shade where the bigger numbers are on the number line. A less than, or less than or equal to, would mean you need to shade the smaller numbers. Okay, and I'm going to show you a tip here. So let's go ahead and do a couple of these. First, graph each inequality. Now, I don't want you to label all of the numbers from -10 to +10. I just want you to make sure that the number that's here is going to fit on our graph. So I'm actually going to put 0 in the middle, and I'm going to do 1, 2, 3 on the right, and -1, -2, -3 on the left. Now, 3/4 is somewhere between 0 and 1. So I'm going to go ahead and use a different color here. 3/4 is about there. Close enough, doesn't have to be perfect. Now, when you're graphing this, you need to decide first, should your dot be open or closed? If it has the equal to sign underneath it, like this one has here, that means we're going to fill it in. Okay, we're going to include that. Then, the trick to make this easier, as long as your variable comes first, this sign tells you which way to shade. So this is my greater than sign, and it's pointing to the right, so it's telling me I need to shade on the right side of that point. Now that's one way you can shade. I also have students who actually shade in the number line. Just make sure I can tell where you're actually shading. Okay? So for B, 10 is the number we're looking at. I'm going to put that in the middle. I'm going to use 11 and 12. And then 9 and 8, and you can throw some more in there if you want, 7, 13. Just make sure the number we need is up there. Okay, and then we are actually looking at the number 10, and because there's not a line here, we're going to use an open dot. Okay, since our variable's first, our less than sign is pointing to the left, and that's the way it's telling us to shade. Shade to the left. And that's all you do. So I want you to try these next two. So hit pause. Try these next two on your own. And when you are ready, Go ahead and go to the next problem. Okay, so we just took an inequality and graphed it. Now we're going to take the graph and write the inequality. When you're doing this, you can pick pretty much any variable. It's up to you. I'm going to use x for the first one. So when you're doing this, you're going to start with your variable on the left side. You're going to find your point. So notice my point is right here at 2. So I'm going to put my 2 on the other side. And then if you have it written this way, if I'm shading to the left, okay, notice which way my arrow is pointing there. That means I'm going to have a sign that points that way, so a less than sign. The last thing you need to decide is if this is filled in, we need to put a bar there. But since this is not, we're going to leave it. And that's all you do. So let's do one more. Pick another variable. I'm going to do t. The number we're talking about this time is negative 0.5. And if you look at which way this is shaded, notice my arrow at the end is pointing to the right. So that's how my arrow is going to point, or my inequality sign is going to point. And then decide, is this filled in this time, or is it open? And this one's actually filled in. So I'm going to go ahead and draw a line underneath since it's filled in. And that's it. So go ahead and try the next two, and then have those 4 guided practice problems checked before you get your homework. If you have any questions, let us know. Have a great day.